What's up guys, I'm Mr. Audio, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. This video is going to be kind of a deep dive into bit depth without getting too sciencey. I'm going to try to explain it in ways that even if you're new to music production, you'll still understand it. Let's get into it. Alright, so in order for us to understand what 32-bit floating point is, we have to understand what 16-bit and 24-bit fixed points are. All I know about 32-bit floating point is that you can't really clip with it, and the dynamic range is astronomically bigger. I didn't really know much more about it, so I did some research to figure out what the benefits of 32-bit floating point actually were. In order for me to understand that, I had to dive into what 16-bit and 24-bit audio was. Alright, so I knew a little bit about 16-bit and 24-bit audio. I knew that every bit extended the dynamic range about 6 dB. Alright, roughly. Alright, so that's all I really knew about bit depth. I just knew that 24-bit audio had a dynamic range of negative 144 roughly dBFS, and that's still kind of incorrect. Alright, so let's get into what 16-bit audio is first. Traditional 16-bit WAV files are stored uncompressed audio samples that are represented by a binary 16-digit number. Binary digit. Bit. Simple, right? So with 16-bit audio being binary, we have roughly 65,000 different combinations of binary digits that we could use to represent different values of amplitude. Alright, so basically those binary numbers just represents different volumes. And to put it in decibel form, we have to do some math. This equation shows that the noise floor sits at negative 96.3 dBFS. Now 24-bit audio works much the same way, except you're adding 50% more digits, which means 50% more dynamic range, roughly. The noise floor sits at negative 144.5 dBFS. And still the max sound that can be reproduced is 0 dBFS. So the noise floor sits a lot lower. And the human ear can only hear down to negative 60 dBFS roughly. So you're probably never going to hear the noise floor of 24-bit audio. But that's not why we use 32-bit audio, is the noise floor. We use it because there's no noise ceiling. Well, technically there is, but we'll never reach it, theoretically. So let me give you some numbers now. The way 32-bit floating point is stored is with scientific notation. So they got 1 with the first digit point, whatever the rest of the number, times 10 to the whatever power. Here's some math up on the screen again. So even though we're using only about 33% more space to store it, we're able to store significantly more information, which means the dynamic range has improved up to 1,528 decibels of dynamic range. So now the noise floor sits at negative 758 dBFS. And the loudest noise that could be reproduced is 770 dBFS. Anyway, so back to 32-bit floating point. With the noise floor being so low and the max loudness noise being so high, you would never be able to clip the sound. Let me show you a picture of the difference between 16, 24, and 32-bit audio of their respective noise floors and max noise being able to reproduce. This is just laughable. Look at the difference between 16 to 24, and then look at how massive the difference is between 32 and 24. It's ridiculous. And most DAWs now support 32-bit floating point, but some home recording interfaces don't. So you got to be careful, because you can still clip on the way in to your DAW if your interface doesn't support 32-bit floating point. Now I have a brand new interface that just came out this year, the SSL-12, and it still only records in at 24-bit audio. So I can still clip going into my system. In fact, I did it last night with an artist here. I had to turn down the gain of my preamp. So if you want to record into your system at 32-bit floating point, make sure your interface has that capability and can do that. Now, why is it beneficial for you to work in 32-bit floating point in your DAW? Well, I'll tell you why. Well, when you're processing audio, sometimes you could cause noises to come up past 0 dBFS. And normally, working at 24-bit, this would cause the audio to clip. But because of how it's stored with scientific notation, it stores audio way above that. All you have to do is take the clip gain and bring it down. Sure, your quiet sounds will get significantly quieter based on how far that audio exceeds 0 dBFS, but that's okay. You can use compression, you can use automation, you can use so many things to fix that, but you've recovered your clipped audio. This is significant for sound designers out there trying to be creative with their audio processing. Anyway, that's why I work in 32-bit floating point now after learning these reasons. I hope this video has been helpful in having you choose your own bit depth that you want to work in. As always, there's some free effect racks with links in the description if you're an Ableton user. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Mr. Audio, out.